In a serene village, people lived in harmony, thanks in no small part to the teachings of the temple's resident monk. He was a beacon of wisdom and calm, and many sought his counsel for life's troubles. But even he had a point of contention, a particularly unruly rosebush which grew at the temple's entrance. Every time the monk tried to prune the bush, it seemed to retaliate with its thorns, leaving him with nicks and scratches. The more he tried to shape it into a form that pleased him, the more the bush resisted, growing wilder and more chaotic. One day, a young novice noticed the monk's visible frustration with the bush. "Master," he inquired, "why do you persist with the bush when it only brings you anger?" The monk sighed. "This bush is my teacher. Every scratch and sting reminds me of a lesson I am yet to learn." The novice, puzzled, pressed further. "What lesson could a mere rosebush teach that life hasn't already taught you?" The monk paused, choosing his words carefully. "Anything that angers us," he began, "presents an opportunity to nurture compassion. The bush, with its thorns, is teaching me compassion for both myself and for nature's inherent desire to be free." Over the next few weeks, instead of trying to mold the bush, the monk simply observed it. He watched its patterns, its tendencies, its rhythms. Instead of seeing it as an adversary, he began to view it as a living being with its own needs and desires. The novice observed this change and was intrigued. One day, after watching the monk tenderly care for the bush without attempting to prune it, he asked, "Master, you no longer seem angered by its thorns. What changed?" The monk smiled. "By understanding the bush, I've learned to understand my own impatience and expectations. I was angered not by the bush, but by my own desire to control and shape it. In recognizing this, I've learned compassion for myself." "But what of the bush? How did you find compassion for it?" The monk gestured to the bush, which was now blooming with radiant roses. "By understanding its nature. Every living being seeks to thrive in its own unique way. My attempts to control it were against its nature. When I let go of my expectations and approached it with understanding and care, it responded in kind." Word of the monk's wisdom spread throughout the village. The villagers began to see their points of anger as opportunities to cultivate compassion. Conflicts diminished, and the village became even more harmonious. Many years later, as an old man, the novice stood before the bush, which had grown into a magnificent spectacle of blooms and thorns. A young child, noticing the old monk's fascination with the bush, approached him and asked, "Sir, why do you gaze at this bush with such admiration?" The novice smiled, thinking back to his younger days and the wisdom he had gained from both the monk and the bush. "Because," he replied, "this is not just a rosebush, it's a teacher. It taught me that in every sting, there's a chance to cultivate a loving heart." And so, in the heart of the village, the bush stood as a testament to the profound truth that anger, when approached with understanding and compassion, can transform into love. The moral lesson of the story is that, in life's vast landscape, it is not the external triggers that define our emotional responses, but our internal perceptions and expectations. When confronted with sources of anger or discomfort, true growth arises not from avoidance or control, but from introspection and understanding. By recognizing the root of our frustrations and approaching them with compassion, we not only find peace within ourselves, but also nurture deeper connections with the world around us. It is in this shift from reaction to reflection that we discover the transformative power of compassion, turning life's thorns into blooming roses.